Have you ever looked around your life, your home, your habits, your relationships, and quietly wondered, is this really the life I meant to build? Maybe it sneaks up on you in a quiet moment, like when you're sitting alone with a cup of tea, or when your body aches just a little more than it used to. Maybe it's not sadness, not exactly, but a sense that something could be better, that you could feel more alive, more connected, more you. If you've ever felt that, you're not alone. Growing older is a beautiful journey, but it comes with choices. And some of them, if we're not careful, can chip away at our joy and well-being little by little until one day we wonder where it all went. Today, I want to talk with you, not at you, not above you, but with you, about 5 of the most common mistakes people make in their later years. These are not just abstract ideas. These are real, everyday choices that can quietly shape whether we age with strength, purpose, and joy, or fall into patterns that leave us feeling isolated, tired, and discouraged. Let's start with one of the most subtle but powerful mistakes: neglecting our physical health. I know it sounds like common sense, doesn't it? Of course we should move more and eat better. But here's the thing, most people don't decide to give up on their bodies. It happens gradually. You skip your morning walk because it's raining. You heat up something quick because cooking feels like too much effort. One small habit changes, then another, and soon the energy you once had starts slipping through your fingers. You don't even realize how much strength you've lost until you try to carry groceries or get up from a low chair, and it takes twice the effort it used to. Let me tell you about John. At 73, he still thought of himself as pretty healthy. He used to walk every morning, had a little garden he tended to, loved making his famous chili on Sundays. But one winter, after a bad cold and some knee stiffness, he started skipping his walks. Then came the fast food, just something easy while he got back on his feet. Weeks turned into months. And by the time spring rolled around, John could barely walk to the mailbox without getting winded. His knees ached constantly, and even simple tasks wore him out. It took him almost a year of effort to rebuild what he'd lost in just a few months of neglect. That's the quiet danger. We tell ourselves it's just temporary. But as we age, our bodies don't bounce back the way they used to. If we stop moving, our muscles shrink, our balance weakens, and our risk of falling skyrockets. A single fall, just one, can change everything. It can take away your independence, your confidence, and your ability to enjoy life the way you want to. But here's the good news. No matter your age, it's never too late to start again. You don't need to run marathons or lift heavy weights. 15 minutes of walking around your neighborhood, gentle stretches in the morning, or using light resistance bands in your living room can work wonders. Your body doesn't need perfection. It needs consistency. It needs to know you haven't given up on it. And the more you move, the more energy you'll have to enjoy the things that truly matter. And let's not forget food. I've heard so many people say, I don't eat that much anymore, so I don't really need to worry about nutrition. But actually, as we get older, we need more of certain nutrients. Protein to keep our muscles strong, calcium for our bones, fiber for digestion, and yes, even more water to keep everything moving smoothly. When we reach for packaged snacks or skip meals altogether, we're not just saving time, we're robbing our bodies of the fuel they need to thrive. So if today's lunch was just crackers and cheese, maybe tomorrow, add in a handful of greens or a boiled egg. Small steps, simple choices, big difference. Now, while we're on the subject of vitality, let's talk about something that's just as essential as food or exercise: staying connected with people. This second mistake is heartbreakingly common: pulling away from friends and family. It doesn't always start with a decision. Maybe you stop going to your weekly card game because your knees hurt. Or you stop calling your sister because she always seems so busy. It's easy to tell yourself, they probably don't want to be bothered. But before you know it, the days get quiet. Then the weeks. And then one day, the silence feels normal. But it's not. Let me introduce you to Margaret. She's 75 with a warm laugh and a heart of gold. But after her husband passed and her closest friends moved away, she slowly withdrew. She told herself she was fine. She had her TV, her books, and her puzzles. But inside, something was fading. Her energy dipped. Her memory got foggier. Even her sleep changed. She didn't feel like herself anymore. But something shifted when she picked up the phone one day and called an old friend. That one call led to coffee, which led to joining a local book club. She started inviting her grandkids over on Sundays for pancakes. And you know what happened? Her mind sharpened. Her mood lifted. She laughed again. She came alive again. Human beings are wired for connection. Our brains thrive on conversation, touch, laughter, and shared moments. Loneliness, on the other hand, can be as dangerous as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. It raises the risk of heart disease, depression, even dementia. And the worst part? It's invisible. No one sees it on the outside. If you're feeling disconnected, please know, you are not a burden. You are not forgotten. You are needed, loved, and worthy of deep, joyful connection. If the old ways of staying in touch don't work anymore, try something new. Technology might seem intimidating at first, but it can be a bridge. A simple video call, a message in a group chat, a photo sent to your niece. It can spark something real. And if tech isn't your thing, don't be afraid to start small. Write a note. Join a community class. Sit outside and wave to a neighbor. You don't need a packed social calendar. You just need people who see you, hear you, and remind you that you matter. Because you do. Let's pause here for just a moment. Take a deep breath with me. You've made it this far into the conversation, and that tells me one important thing. You care. You care about how you live these years, not just how long, but how well. And that awareness? That's the beginning of something powerful. One of the most empowering things we can do as we grow older is to stay open, to learning, to connection, and especially to change. But that brings us to the third mistake so many people make, often without even realizing it: resisting change. Now let's be honest, change isn't easy. After decades of doing things a certain way, it can feel exhausting to even consider something new. Why should we have to learn how to use a smartphone, or change the way we eat, or understand how the world works now? I've heard so many people say, "I've gotten along just fine without all that, and I understand where they're coming from." But here's the thing, the world doesn't stand still. And when we refuse to adapt, we don't stay where we are. We actually fall behind. Frank is a great example of this. He was 77 and proud of his independence. He still drove himself to the grocery store, paid bills by check, and kept the same flip phone he'd used for over a decade. Technology, he believed, was for the younger generation. He didn't need it. Until slowly, he started to feel left out. His grandkids communicated through group chats and sent pictures he couldn't view. His bank moved more services online, and the post office lines got longer and slower. And worse, one day he nearly fell for a scam call pretending to be from Medicare because he didn't know what to look out for. Eventually, he reached a point where he felt frustrated, isolated, and overwhelmed. But to his credit, Frank didn't stop there. He asked his daughter to teach him how to use a basic smartphone. And little by little, step by step, he learned. He now texts his grandkids, FaceTimes with his old army buddy once a month, and even orders his groceries when the weather is bad. He didn't become a tech expert. He just became open. And you know what? That changed everything. Adapting doesn't mean losing who you are. It means giving yourself tools to stay connected, informed, and in control. Whether it's learning how to do a video call, trying out a new hobby, or even switching up routines that no longer serve you, Being flexible is one of the strongest things you can do as you age. The more willing we are to grow, the more opportunities life continues to offer us, even in our 60s, 70s, and beyond. And it's not just about technology. It's about our attitudes, too. Our kids and grandkids see the world differently than we did. They might have different priorities, different language, different ways of showing love. If we hold too tightly to the way things used to be, we risk building walls instead of bridges. But when we stay curious, when we ask questions, when we listen without judgment, we invite connection instead of conflict. We become part of the conversation again. Now, let's talk about something a little more practical, but just as powerful. The fourth mistake many people make is mismanaging their finances. Money can be a tricky subject, especially later in life. You might have saved for years, paid off your home, built a nice little nest egg, and that's wonderful. But the truth is, even with savings, it's easy to run into trouble if we don't adjust how we think about spending and planning. Retirement doesn't mean the end of financial responsibility. It simply shifts the way we approach it. Robert, for instance, retired comfortably at 69. He'd worked hard, saved well, and wanted to enjoy life, so he did. He traveled, bought gifts for his grandchildren, went out to dinner regularly, and didn't think twice about it. But a few years later, things started to change. His medical expenses increased. Inflation crept in. He hadn't factored in the cost of long-term care or the rising price of everyday items. Before he knew it, his savings were shrinking fast, and he wasn't sure what to cut. Eventually, he had to ask his children for help, which left him feeling embarrassed and discouraged. The truth is, that could happen to any of us. Because managing money in old age isn't about being frugal, it's about being wise. That means reviewing your expenses regularly. It means being honest about what you truly need and what might be an old habit that no longer fits your current life. It means preparing for unexpected costs, especially medical ones. And it means protecting yourself from scams and financial abuse, which sadly target older adults more than any other group. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If someone pressures you to make a financial decision quickly, pause. Talk to someone you trust. Whether it's a family member, a financial advisor, or a friend who knows the ropes, never be afraid to ask questions or get a second opinion. Your money is your independence, your peace of mind, and your ability to live life on your own terms. Guard it wisely. And if the idea of budgeting or financial planning sounds overwhelming, start small. Write down your monthly expenses. Look at where your money is going. Is there a subscription you don't use anymore? A bill you could negotiate down? A routine expense that no longer brings joy or value to your life? Every small adjustment adds up. Every smart choice builds a stronger foundation for the years ahead. The fifth and final mistake we'll talk about today is one that often flies under the radar, but it may be the most important of all. And that is giving up on personal growth and purpose. This one is easy to miss because it doesn't always come with big warning signs. Sometimes it looks like boredom. Other times it feels like a lack of motivation. But behind it all is this quiet, dangerous thought. I've done all I can. My best years are behind me. And that simply isn't true. Let me tell you about Barbara. At 71, she had retired, raised her kids, and checked off all the boxes. But something was missing. Her days blurred together. She spent hours watching TV, not because she loved it, but because she didn't know what else to do. Her memory got foggier. She lost interest in things that used to bring her joy. She felt invisible, like the world had moved on without her. One day she passed a sign at the library advertising a painting class. She hadn't painted since high school, but something nudged her to sign up. That one class lit a spark. She wasn't the best in the room, but she showed up. She made friends. She started looking forward to Thursdays. And slowly, she remembered what it felt like to be excited about something. We never outgrow the need for purpose. Whether it's learning something new, mentoring a younger person, volunteering, writing, gardening, or simply being present for someone who needs a kind word, having a reason to get up in the morning matters. It keeps our minds sharp, our hearts open, and our spirits strong. You don't need to start a business or run for mayor. You just need something that feeds your soul and reminds you that your life still holds meaning, still holds promise, still holds the power to make a difference in your world and in someone else's. You are not finished growing, not by a long shot. And here's something truly beautiful to remember. Growth doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. It doesn't have to come with applause or recognition. Sometimes it's in the quiet moments, when you challenge yourself to try something new, when you dust off an old passion, or when you show up for someone else with a heart full of kindness. That's growth. That's purpose. And it's something no one can take from you, no matter your age. I know there's a voice that whispers sometimes, "What's the point? I'm too old to start now." But I want you to know age doesn't close the door. It opens a new one. You've lived, loved, lost, and learned. That's not the end of a story. That's the wisdom the world needs more of. If anything, these years, this chapter, can be your richest yet. Because now you get to choose with clarity. You know what matters. You've earned the right to say no to what drains you and yes to what lifts you up. I once met a man in his 80s who decided to learn the piano. He didn't want to perform or impress anyone. He just loved the sound of it. His fingers were stiff at first, and his progress was slow. But every morning, for 15 minutes, he played. A year later, he could play his favorite hymns by heart. Not for anyone else, just for him. That's purpose. That's possibility. And maybe for you, it's not the piano. Maybe it's writing your story for your grandkids. Maybe it's tending a garden, teaching a child how to bake bread, volunteering once a week, or walking dogs at the shelter. Maybe it's finally reading that stack of books you always meant to start, or learning how to take photos with your phone. Whatever it is, big or small, it matters. It gives your day shape. It gives your heart something to beat for. And don't worry if you've fallen into a bit of a rut. It happens to all of us. Life can be tiring, and sometimes it's hard to break the cycle. But here's what I believe with my whole heart. Small steps can lead to extraordinary change. You don't have to overhaul your entire life. You just have to take one step in the right direction, and then another. That's how we rebuild momentum. That's how we rediscover what it means to feel alive. Now let's take a breath and reflect together. We've talked about some big things today, things that often go unnoticed until they start taking a toll on our happiness and health. Maybe some of what you heard felt uncomfortably familiar. Maybe you saw a little bit of yourself in John, or Margaret, or Frank, or Barbara. That's okay. That's not failure. That's awareness. And awareness is a powerful beginning. We all make mistakes. We all fall into patterns that don't serve us. But the real danger isn't in making a mistake. It's in staying stuck there because we're too afraid or too ashamed to make a change. But you are not stuck. You are not alone. And you have more strength and more wisdom than you probably give yourself credit for. If you've let your physical health slip a bit, there's still time to get back on track. Start small. Take a walk today, even if it's just to the mailbox. Drink an extra glass of water. Add something fresh and green to your plate tonight. And don't skip those doctor's visits. Your health is not a burden. It's your freedom. If you've been isolating yourself, you're not the only one. But you also don't have to stay there. Reach out. Call someone. Write a note. Visit a neighbor. And if you feel brave, try something new. Join a club. Attend a class. Show up at the community center. You'd be amazed how many people are looking for connection, just like you. If you've been resisting change, I get it. It can be frustrating. But being open to change doesn't mean losing control. It means gaining new ways to live, connect, and thrive. Try learning something new, even if it's just one simple feature on your phone. Let your family teach you. Let yourself be a beginner. There's freedom in that. If finances have been weighing on your mind, don't ignore the feeling. Take a quiet hour this week to sit down and look at your expenses. Ask for help if you need it. Talk to someone you trust. And above all, protect your resources with the same care you give to your loved ones, because your peace of mind is priceless. And if you've lost that spark, that sense of purpose, I want you to know it's not gone forever. It might just be waiting for you to say yes to it again. Say yes to your curiosity. Say yes to your talents. Say yes to sharing your wisdom, your warmth, and your one-of-a-kind voice with the world. You still have so much to give, because aging is not the end of the story. It's a turning point, a chance to slow down, not in defeat, but in intention, to focus on what matters, to let go of what no longer serves you, and to step into each day with grace, courage, and the belief that your best days are not behind you, they're still unfolding. I hope something in today's conversation touched your heart. If it did, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what's one small thing you're going to do this week for your body, your mind, or your spirit? What's one connection you want to renew? One habit you're ready to change? One dream you're still holding on to? Your words matter. Your presence here matters. When you leave a comment, you're not just engaging with a video. You're reminding others that they're not alone, that we're in this together. And if this video helped you in any way, I hope you'll take a moment to like it, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel. Every little bit of support helps us keep creating content that uplifts, informs, and inspires. We want to walk this journey with you, and we hope you'll walk it with us. So here's to small steps, to meaningful change, to living with purpose, love, and joy at every age. Here's to you and the life you're still creating, one beautiful day at a time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.